right, guys, hopefully we've got a good case study today. We have a 2006 Jeep Commander. Let's take a look at it here. All right, a little bit the worse for wear. Looks like we got a little fender bender there. I did offer, if the guy still has the parts from whatever happened here, we may address that too, because otherwise the vehicle looks really nice. Let's take a look at the engine here. All right, we've got 4.7 liter V8. I have never seen this before. Again, remember, I'm do-it-yourselfer, so I don't see cars all the time. You'd expect I'd see a lot of these being in Colorado, though. But this is a new system for me, so being unfamiliar, although I am glad to see the two separate banks on the engine. I have a video, I think I have one other video of a Jeep, and it had that inline six. And it totally threw me off because it still had two banks, even though it was in line. It actually has a split exhaust on each three cylinders. So this at least is a lot more familiar to me. One of the first things I want to do is locate the EGR valve on this thing. I literally have no idea where this would be. So let's take a look. Let's see here. Is that it way in the back there? No. Let's see. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, so there is right, well, that's not exactly the greatest location as far as accessibility. Wow, the EGR pipe runs right in front of it, but we have our wiring harness there, which will make testing very, very easy if we need to do that. How do I know that's the EGR valve? Well, very simple. It's because I did my homework and read the book that is available on my website at www.schrodingersboxqm. That's QM for quantum mechanics. And that is for the diehards that really want to learn their diagnostic skills to the highest possible level. You can download the book from there. The book is $3.99, and with it will come a month of free videos on that channel. So all we do is go to our book here, we scroll down, and this book was written by one of my viewers, Dr. Eamon Kamar, and he is a pharmacist actually, and somewhere in here I know we have EGR. There it is right there, exhaust gas recirculation. We just click there. And the first thing is Dr. Eamon Kamar listed some videos that we have. We see these are all available on YouTube, and these will be other case studies or diagnosis and understanding on EGR systems. We see some pictures of EGR. I recognize mine is looking like that, which is going to be an electronic EGR, not the simple vacuum-controlled EGR. Both are described here in the text with the operation and how it works. This is our electronic EGR system here. All right, so we can do some homework ahead of time here. We see that this valve is usually pulse width controlled by the PCM using ground side switching. I will tell you for a fact, be very careful with that, because I know for a fact I have seen some that are positive side switched. That'll get you in trouble. You want to activate that solenoid by giving it a ground. Well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to blow the PCM because it's actually power side switched and not ground side switched. So screw that up and you will blow the PCM. 12-volt circuit on these. Can be tested similar to a vacuum controlled. Yep, we just want to apply voltage and ground to the valve and the engine should react. Back in the day, that's exactly how I would do it. But now with the advent of scan tools that are as little as a couple $100 that have bidirectional control, we no longer need to do that. Everybody can afford a bidirectional control scan tool now. It used to be that would cost a minimum, back when I started the channel, of $1,500 or so. Now we know that we can get them for like a couple $100. And then this is very helpful, usually also contains a potentiometer to report the actual valve position. That may come in helpful later. All right, so because I know the function of the EGR and an idea of what it looks like, I can see there's a pipe that connects from the exhaust to the intake manifold. I know I've identified my EGR valve. I think what we want to do now is see what this thing is or isn't doing. So let's go hook up our scan tool and take a look at some data. All right, we are going to use the Topdon Phoenix Smart. This scan tool was provided to me by Topdon along with a 4-channel oscilloscope in exchange for using it for a period of time and also a review and tutorial on it, which is available on my channel. All right, we are going to do my favorite thing in the world. We're going to play the parts slot machine. What do you say we put an EGR valve in this thing? Let's just replace the EGR valve based on the code. That looks just like a slot machine. That's so ridiculous. All right, Jeep Commander Limited 2006. We know right where we're going with this thing, so let's just go right to the PCM and get our codes. And, oh, we've got a bonus code, a P0300. I was not informed of that. All right, so we've got a P1404. That is our EGR performance code. It says close position, so maybe it's not closing all the way. It might be detecting. Not quite sure what that is. The P0300, of course, we know is random misfire. So this throws a little bit of a curve here, but actually not much of one. Because we still need to start with the EGR valve. The reason being, if we think logically, can a P0300 cause a EGR valve fault code? The answer is absolutely not. No. Can an EGR fault code cause a random misfire? Absolutely it could, and as a matter of fact, it's one of the things that you would expect as a symptom as well. So if we fix the P1404, odds are we will also fix the 0300. However, there is a complication in that it is entirely possible the 0300 could be completely unrelated with the EGR thing. We could have anything from vacuum leak to fuel pump problem, ignition issues, anything like that. So this is really important. This is where I'm going to contact the customer, talk to them about this second code so that we set some expectations that just fixing the EGR issue may not necessarily fix the 0300 issue, and that check engine light could come back on, and then we certainly, that's the last thing we want to have happen because we know the customer is going to relate it to us misdiagnosing our original repair. The second thing is that the diagnosis of the 0300, if we find something separate with that, well, then that's going to be separate expense for the customer because it's an unrelated thing. Hopefully, the 0300 is just related to the 1404 and we kill two birds with one stone. Okay, so we're going to go out of here. I think I want to get the engine running and we're going to just test the EGR valve performance. Okay, sorry, this engine's a little bit noisy with the mechanical fan, but we'll endure that. One of the things I also want to do is get the car warmed up because I want to look at some data for that 0300 code. I don't know why I backed out of my PCM. We want to go to the live data. No, actually, we want to go to an actuation test. Okay, engine quieted down now that it finished the warm-up. Ooh, I can feel this engine's misfiring. Yeah, it's really slight. I actually wouldn't be able to tell unless I was leaning on the fender here a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely running a little bit rough here. What we have available here for EGR. Okay, there's evap. There it is, EGR valve duty cycle. All right, so this, as Dr. Raymond Kamar correctly pointed out, this is going to be pulse width modulated. Select a way to start the actuator. What the? Oh, okay, so down here we have preset percentages that we can apply for the pulse width modulation. That's kind of unusual, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and choose 17%. Okay, there's 17%. Wow, nothing changed at all, not even in the slightest. All right, let's step up to 34%. Okay, there's 34%, and yeah, this is a problem because even at 17%, I would expect that we would have a major change in the idle as we open that EGR valve, especially at idle. 34%, that should kill the engine. So this is a real problem, actually, because we've got a number of variables here. Let's step up to 51%. 51%, it won't, all right, 51%, please. All right, yeah, it won't go past 34% for some reason. I don't know if that's, I mean, there's no protection thing that's necessary or anything like with a variable valve timing. I'm not sure why it won't go 51%. All right, well, let's go back. Yeah, the 17 and 34% work, and I can tell you there's no difference whatsoever with that. Let me see if I can hear anything. Get over by this EGR valve here. And did it change? Yeah, it changed to 34%. I can't say that I heard anything from the EGR valve, but again, it's not like I expect we're going to hear a click or anything like that. Again, this is pulse width modulated. The problem with this is a big issue because of the number of variables here. First of all, obviously, that EGR valve could cause this. Let me go ahead and turn off this engine because I don't want it to get too hot right now. Oh wait, yeah, I do. I want to warm it up anyway and get into closed loop because I want to examine some data for the 0300. So let's see here, where's the throttle on this? Okay, and good, this is a traditional throttle here, nice. So that'll make our testing easier, I don't have to get in the car. But anyway, what I was saying was this is a really big problem because of the number of variables here. Again, first variable is obviously bad EGR valve. Oh man, I would have fixed this car already. I would have changed that EGR valve. Come on, man, change the EGR valve. It's also possible that this EGR valve is working, but that there is no command to it, no power to it, possibly open ground. There could be an electrical problem with this valve. But also there's a third variable, and that variable is very often we have seen in many of my videos, especially with some of my older scan tools at the do-it-yourself level, that these bidirectional commands just simply don't work. You have no issue with the valve or the command or anything, but the actual software has an incompatibility. It offers you the ability to change the EGR position, for example, but the communication does not work. And we need a way to validate if I'm actually sending command successfully to change that EGR position. And actually, this is where the book just now came in really handy because, again, the potentiometer would be a really great, easy way to test that. If I remember, I thought there were like 5 or 6 wires on this EGR valve. Yeah, there's like at least 5 wires on that EGR valve. That alone tells us there's going to be a potentiometer on here. And we'll want to look at that because that way we can verify not only if we're getting command, but even EGR movement. And that is important because the last final variable for this is we are commanding the EGR open, and it is opening, but there's no EGR flow through it. That would be another variable that we need to rule out. Or we could just replace the EGR valve. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's read our data stream. Let's see what we have available here. What I'd really like is fuel trim. What I'm doing right now, I'm done with the EGR for now. We need to do a little checking on that, but I want to see if this 0300 code may or may not be related. Looks like we got some bank 1 and bank 2 long term here. Right now, this engine is idling kind of funny. There's short term bank 2. I would like short-term bank 1 if it would show up. Wow, wait a minute. It's got to be up here. There it is, short-term right there. Okay, good. So we've got our short-term and long-term trims. Just want to see, this is an older vehicle, so it probably doesn't have it. but I'd like to see maybe there is, ooh, there's EGR duty cycle. We're going to pull that. I want to see if there's fuel pressure on here. Let's get the engine speed. Don't want to really overload with data here, so I don't want to get too far off track. Fuel level, percent fuel level. It looks like there's not fuel pressure on here. That's all right. Okay, I think that's good right now. Let's pull up all that. Let's see, our fuel trims look really good. As expected, we've got no duty cycle on the EGR right now. Oh, well, we have a 5-volt reference sensed. So what does that tell us, by the way, 5-volt reference? That guarantees we've got a potentiometer in there because the EGR valve is going to be 12 volts. So that is absolutely potentiometer reference. That's going to come in really handy for our situation that it looks like we may not even be commanding this EGR valve. That's going to help us rule it out very easily. All right, let's see what happens if we increase RPM. I need to reposition this, sorry. All right, we're going to increase the throttle a bit here. Well, I don't really have an explanation for that. But if we notice, the long-term trim is memorized in high negative numbers. Well, low negative numbers, I should say. But it's corrected for by the short term. But going extremely rich with throttle like that. And that again could be something I would expect with an EGR issue, but what I'm really kind of baffled on is why there's short-term correction for it. I mean, it's memorized in the long term at that. Let's see if we can graph that. Yeah, let's combine our long and short terms there. Let's increase our RPM. Yeah, and you see how the correction is working right there. We got the correction actually applying to our long-term trims. Yeah, I'm glad we did this. This is really kind of hard to explain right now. And one explanation for this could be EGR issues. So after we fix this EGR issue, we're going to want to revisit this for sure. And if this happens again, then we've got 2 issues with this truck that are unrelated. It's so crazy watching this correction happening here. And right now the engine is not happy. It is stumbling. Wow, and look at that. Our short terms are jumping up. Now remember, we got to keep in mind we've got 2 separate scales here. So we're only talking like 5% on the short terms there because of our 2 different scales. But our long terms right now are reading normal, but those I believe are going to dip. Yeah. Yeah, that's really bizarre. The long terms originally dip. They go down around -20, but then they're compensated for about halfway by the short term. So it's reading better than it did just 2 minutes ago. Not quite sure what the deal is with that, but we will have to re-examine that. All right, what we need to do now is I need to see if this EGR is getting command from my scan tool and if it is actually moving. So let's go to the wire diagram real quick and familiarize with it. All right, so the reason I want to pull up this wire diagram here, and we lucked out, this is a really good diagram. This is all we need here. We don't even have to follow any wires on this because of our understanding from the book on how these work. The problem is that when I looked at my PIDs, I was disappointed to find that even though there is a potentiometer in that EGR valve, it did not give a PID for actual position from the signal, and I am very disappointed by that, so we'll have to figure out a way of doing that. But what we can see is very clearly this is exactly as we would expect. We've got EGR signal, 5-volt reference, and the sensor ground. What is that? Potentiometer. So all we need to do is just tap into the EGR signal, command that EGR valve to move. If we see a voltage change on that signal, we know for a fact that EGR valve is moving, and that would change our direction. If we do not see a change with it, then either we are not commanding the EGR, in which case we're going to have to look at our solenoid control, which, by the way, the solenoid control, take a look at it. The solenoid control is positive side switched. How important is that to know so we don't blow the PCM by accident? How do I know that the solenoid control is power side switched? Because of the ground wire that is fixed. The black with the light green is a ground wire that is fixed to the frame of the vehicle. So it is power side controlled from the PCM. That also for the asshats, why didn't you check the fuse? I always start by checking the fuses. Okay, well guess what? There is not a fuse for this EGR valve. Look, it's going to be, this is going to be power side controlled. This dark blue and violet wire is going to go to the PCM. There is no other possible explanation. Let's just follow it and prove it. All right, we're going to highlight that wire. Goes off the page, goes right into the PCM right there at the EGR solenoid control. All right, so there's no fuse on this. If there is a power issue on this, it's going to be either a broken wiring or something like that, or a bad PCM, okay? But there's no fuse to check, so we save ourselves that trouble. What we want to do is go back to the valve, and right there is what I want. Dark blue with a light green, that'll be our signal wire. Let's go ahead and find that, and we can just, I'm a little tempted to use the scope, but we're just going to go old school on this. I'm just going to grab a DVOM, and we're just going to check it with the DVOM. All right, dark blue with a light green tracer. There is a dark blue right there, but it doesn't seem to have a light green. This looks like a blue. I wouldn't say it's dark blue. Looks like that has a tracer on it. Wait, what's this? That looks like black with light green. Was that one of our options? Yes, black with light green is the ground for the solenoid. So this here is our only choice. That must be our signal wire right there. So let's tap into that. That feels like it's making contact. Okay, let's get this engine started and repeat this. All right, and we are not making contact here, or we have a wire issue. Let's check. I thought, oh, there it is. Okay, there we go, like that. 0.13 volts on our signal. See if we can get our scan tool in here. All right, let's go back to our actuation test again. And now we'll be able to see, are we actually getting this EGR valve to move using our computer? Where was that? Right there. Okay, so we're at 0% now. We've got 0.11 volts on our meter. We're going to hit our 17%. There it is. Oh, and it did move up 0.125 or so. Let's go to the 34%. Oh, it definitely moves, but not as much as I would expect. Let's go to the 0%. Yeah, it changes. Okay, yeah, there is no question. We are able to command this EGR valve and get physical movement from it. Let's go back to our 34% there. And yeah, without question, we get physical reaction from the EGR valve. Now, is that the correct position? It seems like you would have more change than that. There is no question this EGR valve is moving. You still want to replace that EGR valve? Maybe the EGR valve isn't opening properly. I'm still disappointed in my 51%. Why doesn't that? Oh, there it goes. Oh, and the engine just died. Okay, so now my 51% worked. Look at our position, by the way. So actually, we didn't need the engine running. I just wanted the engine run so I could hear any effect. Let's go to 68% here. God, there it is, 68%. Yeah, definitely this is moving. 85%. Yeah, now it works. 0.21. If I go back to 0% here, 0.11. Okay, what do you think? Replace the EGR valve? I don't think so. I think we know exactly what's going on here. There is also another reason why I know, and it's because I've been holding out on you guys, waiting to see in the comments who's going to yell at me about not changing the EGR valve. It won't be any of my subscribers. It's always the new guys that are like, this guy sucks. Change the EGR valve already. All he does is talk and waste time. Well, here's the cat out of the bag. The EGR valve on this vehicle has already been replaced. That's why it's here. So the owner of the vehicle had the check engine light come on. He used his code scanner, saw the EGR valve code, went to O'Reilly's, got an EGR valve, replaced it himself, and the code came back 2 days later. He went back to the O'Reilly's and they referred him to me. So I already know that the EGR valve was not the problem on this car. I didn't know anything else. All I knew is that he had an EGR code, replaced the EGR valve, didn't fix it, brought the car to me. So I already know it's either electrical or a clogged port. But I also didn't know for sure if my scan tool was moving the valve until just now. So anyway, it's always entertaining with that because something that a lot of these guys don't realize when they put those comments, I always get every video. I haven't really watched the whole video yet, but I'm going to say that that's a bad solenoid, or yeah, you've got a blown fuse there. And then as they watch the video and realize they're wrong, they delete the comment. What they don't realize is I see the deleted comments. So it's always kind of entertaining to see that, by the way. But it'll be good to go back in the comments and see how many people yell at me for not just replacing the EGR valve or not checking the fuse, and then they delete the comment. I actually get to see that. It's pretty hysterical. All right, so what we need to do is we have our diagnosis. We need to get that EGR valve port examined, and I'm pretty sure we're going to find some carbon clog in there. And then we need to retest not only the EGR performance, but we need to revisit our fuel trims, see now if we get a different behavior, which would indicate this will also fix the 0300. If it doesn't, that will be a separate video, actually. All right, let me get to work on that, and we will come back when I find what our issue is.